Ladies and gentlemen, today we have my brother, Chad Stolle, on the podcast. Chad, how are you?
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me on.
No problem.
Absolutely. What do you do with your life?
When I'm not working or raising children, those are probably number one and number two.
Okay.
Sleeping.
Sleeping? So
there's
obviously
1, 2,
I know,
and 3.
but you have 6 kids, right?
6?
Ooh. 6 children.
6 children.
You got a full house.
How I've never asked you, man. What's it like on a daily with 6 children? Because a lot of people think it's absolutely insane to have 4 children.
Yeah, you'll hear that out there a lot. You know, like somebody who has 2 kids will say something like, "I don't know how you do it.
Yeah,
I can't survive with 2."
And the third one with 3 children. It's like, I don't know how I could survive with 3.
Yeah. So it's not, everything that you would worry about.
I can't imagine, just because I know how much of how crazy I was when I was a little kid. Ooh, I can't imagine 5 or 6 Franks run. Oh, that wouldn't be fun.
So what is it like a daily what's it like to have 6 kids?
Well, it's just nonstop from the time they wake up to the time they go down in terms of what you can do as an adult. Mm-hmm. You're on call and it's just a constant need from top to bottom, from my 12-year-old on down to my 10-month-old, which is not a bad thing. A lot of times I think we get in the habit of turning inward, right, and being like, I want my time and I want to do all these things. When you're a parent, you kind of don't get to do that anymore.
Right.
And so you get to be more selfless in that regard. And it's not always easy to juggle that, but there's just never a time when a kid's not in need of something.
Right.
So either I'm breaking up a fight, or I'm wiping a butt, or I'm drying tears or cooking food. Now I say this, and I'm out of the house. If you put my wife on here, then she would really tell you what it's like to have 6 children in the house.
Especially now that they're closing everything down. 3 weeks, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. That's right.
That's going to be tough for the ones with the parents that both are employed. Mm-hmm. Because
you wonder.
Yeah, I don't know how. Well, they said a lot of Trump is urging a lot of companies to pay sick wages too, just while everything's closed down.
Right.
I believe Crown just closed down too. They're closed for 2 weeks.
I don't know, because my dad works at Crown. He's still
not
going to work. Yeah.
Was it Crown or Cap? Maybe it was Cap.
Might be Cap. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard Crown offered 5 days.
Oh, really?
Unpaid to get your child care situation worked out.
Okay.
Oh,
something like that.
Yeah.
But it changes by the minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
Talking about that.
What does personalities really affect day by day, like mornings or nights, getting people?
It's almost predictable.
Is it?
I mean, every kid's different. So after a while, you're like, if there's a problem, I already know who it is. Mm-hmm. I can tell from the sound of the problem.
How many boys and how many girls you have?
5 boys and a girl.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a fun house.
There's a lot of activity, a lot of physical activity in the house. But you can almost predict it by the sound or the kind of problem that you have. That it's going to be Evan.
Mm-hmm.
Daggone it, Evans.
What's the worst experience you've had, with a kid?
With one of your experience?
Kids? Yeah, one of the experience you're just you had to really question, oh boy, I got a long ways to go.
Normally, it's probably just my pitiful attempts at parenting. You know?
Yeah.
That's probably the worst. The ones that stick out in my mind are when I just flip my lid over something. it's not the kid's fault.
It's you're stressed. You're like half the time you don't have enough sleep, work related.
Yeah. I'd say recently, I'm 38, and I've been telling people I feel 38. Like this 10-month-old has worked us over, and so having 6 children, it's going to span some time. Most people anymore, they do wait to have kids till they're later, but we got started 3 years into our marriage. And so, do the math here, 12 all the way down, that's 13 solid years of kids, and then we got a lot more ahead of us. But man, 38 years old, getting up in the middle of the night with an infant, and this guy's been, he's had some tough months in there. So that's, for me, it's been like the realization that, we were just talking about it. I'm kind of old. I'm realizing I'm old when I hang out with guys like you, and I feel old when I'm raising.
That's the thing my dad always tells me. Every when it's really cold, he'll always say, "Boy, it just gets worse every year." I'm telling you what. He's like, love the years you have right now, because once you hit about 50, then it's all downhill. And he's like, then you hit 60, and then you're just like completely dead. You're just no energy.
Yeah.
But he's like, it's a trade-off. It's like having kids early. That's the only way you can have so many kids is if you have them early too.
Yep.
But it's a trade-off. It's like the younger you have your kids, the more you can play ball with your kids. When the older you get, the less you can play.
Yeah. But you guys were asking about what it's like. I mean, so there's a lot of that stress and activity and nonstop from sun up to sundown, but there's a lot of joy too, for all of that. It's so worth it. It's so worth it. There's moments that, if you didn't have, if we only had 4 and not 6, or we only had 2 and not 5 or whatever, there's those interactions, the differences in personality, everything is worth it. It's such a joy. And it's a privilege really for me to be a part of that.
Did it change your outlook on a lot of stuff in life? Like just being in public or whatever, having kids?
It does. Yeah, it does. I mean, it's nothing that growing up you'd have any perspective on, and before you have children, you wouldn't have perspective on either. But I think maybe big families in particular, especially in our day and age, when maybe, what is it, the average? You guys know that was the average.
The
probably,
average kid.
probably like
2.1.
Probably 2 kids.
It's like 2.1 in the United States. So what I have felt more often than not when you talk to folks is like this sort. I don't know if it's not like a condemnation or sort of a judgment, but it's the knee jerk is the response is, well, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to have so many kids? And then so like common questions would be like, as soon as you have one more kid, what do you think the next question is? Are you done?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know. That's kind of a personal question.
Yeah.
And I just had this kid and I'm really excited about it. Why are we talking about
the next one?
and other times, like, and I know people don't mean anything by it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of just something you say. But another thing would be like, you have all these kids and maybe in public it's kind of going south on you. You're out at La Coretta and the kids are going nuts.
Crying, one's crying, one's in the rice bowl or something like that.
We're on our 6th free chips and salsa.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, they would a common thing you might hear is something like, how that happens, right? I'm like, well, yeah.
People actually say that too?
All the time.
Seriously?
All the time.
That's weird to me because my parents told me, my dad especially told me when I was young, I was like, why didn't you want to have a lot of kids? And he's like, well, it's just preference, really. Some people have a lot of kids because if maybe they have more chores to do. That's why like farms will have a lot of kids,
right?
Because there's more chores to do in the house. And then some of it's just growing up. Like I was glad he told me that early. It's like a lot of people that have more kids when they grow up because they were in a big family already,
right?
And that's how their life they grew up.
Yeah. And my dad. Jacob and our dad was one of 10.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. See, there you go.
Yeah, we have a big one, and then we have a cousin that have 3 sets of twins now?
Yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah, and my
Holy
first cousin.
cow.
Yeah.
You guys are just real fertile. That's the thing.
And the ironic part is it's like I'm 5 boys, 1 girl. Dad was 9 boys, 1 girl. Logan has 6 boys now and one girl. So he actually just had he has the 3 sets of twins and he just had a little boy.
That's crazy.
Named Linus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Charlie Brown.
That's like you got the boys' blood.
Yeah.
The Stollies.
Will just
we have
keep
boys.
on,
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing, I guess.
That's kind of cool.
The name will continue for sure.
There you go. Yeah, there you
It
go.
will end.
Bloodline won't end.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem with China right now. There's only boys,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and there's not enough females now. Well, now I mean, with the whole Corona, whatever.
Well, maybe
It'll just equalize itself, but I doubt that. Who knows? China's on its own island.
They are. They really are. Oh well. China.
But it's a good thing to have more kids. I think.
Yeah,
I think that. Well, statistically, we need more kids to fulfill the employment.
Mm-hmm. Social Security.
Exactly. So more and more people need to have kids, which millennials are having less kids on average compared to like the baby boomers or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
I think it's just fun. I mean, obviously they're my nephews and nieces, but it's just fun. It's weird now. I got to see them grow up and watching another generation kind of grow up and see their personalities, and it's kind of fun just like talk about like what they're gonna do or how they're gonna be when they grow up. It's pretty fun to.
That still
watch
blows
them.
my mind. People have said that like that. You want to have? That's weird.
Yeah. Do you know how that happens?
Do you know how?
You know how that?
Well, I think you would know more about that than they would.
Yeah,
Right.
seriously. Yeah. Well, it's just like weird because it's. I guess it's how you. Because I've always lived to each their own. Live and let live. Like.
Yeah. And again, people don't. I don't think anybody means anything by it per se. You know, maybe it's just something.
You have to be in the position to actually realize how it means.
Yeah.
Or at least be. I don't know. I guess just. That's a weird situation.
That's why it came to my mind. You said, if you got into perspective, and that's certainly one thing. We do know other families that are larger, and they have common experiences, and almost to the extent, like even people who they're close with, unfortunately, families that are like when they go to announce that they're having the 7th kid, like there's not genuine excitement. It's kind of like
it's almost why. That's so weird. It's like that's
Yeah, it is.
maybe that's just a side effect of how society is now.
It is. Yeah.
Because you just think about how much there's family values are less and less. Like as you see this single motherhood skyrocket in all communities too.
Yeah. Now this is just my personal opinion. It just seems like the bigger families. I'm not saying all of them are like this, but bigger families seem to are more connected and are more like
I completely agree. Just because I have a smaller family and like we have our every 4th of July we'll get together, our immediate family, and then every Christmas or whatever we'll try to talk to each other. But like we definitely don't meet up as much as I'll hear like some people I know that have large families.
Yeah, and they connect, they help each other out more, and it just seems like it's
there's more help to go around at least.
Yeah, and I would think it sort of perpetuates kind of what you were talking about, Frank, like seeing my dad and his siblings and all those cousins. There was just a lot of good memories.
Exactly.
So there was a positive association in my mind. I remember it's odd, but I remember my Aunt Katie asking me, and she'll still attest to this, back when Karen and I were, I think we might have been engaged at the time, and she's like, how many kids are you going to have? And I said 6.
Did you?
I predicted it. Yeah, and that doesn't mean there couldn't be a 7th here, but so at the time, even way before I would even conceived of a house full of kids like this,
You just kind of knew it already.
Yeah, I kind of want a big family. We had 4, so it wasn't too far off the common experience. Whatever.
I mean, me and Emma have talked about like just how many kids we want. I mean, we've kind of settled on at least the maximum of 6, the minimum of 3. Like we want more than just 2.
See, that's crazy to me because kids have yet to cross my mind.
How old are you, Frank?
I'm 23 now.
Okay.
And so like, well, my parents had me when they were like, I don't know, 40, 38. and I only have one brother, and so it wasn't like I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
Right.
Like I'm like, oh, I'm probably not gonna have kids until I'm older. That's such a difference. Maybe that also adds to it. Maybe the people that wait later are the ones that have the less kids.
Yeah. It just you can't really have if you wait later.
Exactly.
You can't really have it.
There are a lot of societal things I think that do probably factor into that, and whether it's getting married later in life or women being more apt to go out into the workforce.
Right.
Yeah, that's another thing that we
thing.
haven't experienced yet at all. Like that's in the last 40, 50 years, women have entered the workforce. Because
you see that trickle down of some of those decisions, a lot of them economic, right? And I think that priority, you might see that play out among some parents that, hey, expectation level is we're going to pay for our kids' college. Kids cost a lot of money, and therefore we could never afford to have more than two.
Exactly. But I think there's going to be a shift because less parents are sending their kids to college now. College is lowering just because of how expensive it's becoming. And so I think as that shifts, maybe the birth rate will go back up because you don't have those future costs. Because a lot of it probably wasn't a lot of it for you. Like you were, if you weren't fiscally ready for like a fifth kid or something like that, would you have had a fifth kid? Was it like you personally wanted to have it didn't matter, you would figure out how to have one?
Yeah, so I think the economic factor really, and maybe it's just because we're fortunate, but we could set that aside as a determining factor.
Yeah,
that we'll add if God willing we could add 7 and 8.
Yeah, and
certainly that's going to put a little burden on the wallet, but that's not a factor for us. So maybe for others it is.
Well, I think that's like if you think about it as a societal standpoint, that's a better system to do because the people that can physically support a larger family, they should, because that kid's probably going to have a better childhood compared to someone that they're like 5 or 6 kids and the parent can only support 2 of them. Like, I think that's a good standpoint societally to go at.
Right. Yeah. Well, now kind of going off this, you recently went to the March for Life. Wasn't that recent?
Yeah,
Wasn't that
Washington,
recent?
D.C.
When was that? When was that?
January 23rd. They usually try to do it around the anniversary of Roe v. Wade.
Okay.
So yeah, this is in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And it's typically on a Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
So yeah,
you
took a bus trip down there.
How many people do you bring usually? Like you said, you took a bus load.
Well, so it's Mercer County Right to Life is the organization that hosts it. So a couple years back, after I was president, usually a past president takes on a project, and that was one. Some gentleman had shouldered that burden for 40 years. He'd been one of those founding members that had first marched on Washington right after Roe v. Wade.
Wow.
And so he's his age and just ready to probably give it up. So I took those reins, and it's been maybe 6 or 7 years that we've taken trips down there. So I literally just have to sort of be a bus captain, help organize it. There's another guy that helps me, and he does a lot of that back end stuff, makes it nice. But yeah, we can have as many, like a bus load is 55 roughly, and we'll take 2. We took 2 this year.
Oh, did you really?
Good for you guys.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a mixture. We had some Minster this year and some Jay County, Indiana folks join in. But everybody usually knows, hey, Mercer County's sending down buses.
Yeah.
So if they have, usually it's youth. So there'll be a couple parents as chaperones and then a group of youth, high school, that want to go down. We have it all planned out. It's pretty, kind of runs itself.
Okay, nice.
But it's a pretty incredible event.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about it. I mean, tell us like what happens there. I mean, like how many people? I mean, what's that all entail?
It's hard to say, but I'll say a few things. Well, first off, this year, first year. Now, so they've been doing this so 1973 was Roe v. Wade, and they've been marching ever since that year right after Roe v. Wade. They've been doing this.
Now, hold on. For people who don't know, what is Roe v. Wade?
Yeah, so
it's like
Norma McCarvey was this Roe, and ironically, she now today is pro-life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But she was pregnant and wanted to seek an abortion, and so she sort of teamed up with folks invested in that abortion industry at the time, wanting to make that legal, and they brought suit, and that it's a Supreme Court case.
Okay. Yep.
Roe versus Wade, that established at the highest level that abortion is legal. The Supreme Court ruled that it's legal in all cases and up to the moment of birth, up until the all the way through. So that's been the legal precedence to date, and states now have sort of chipped away at that and done their own thing. Ohio being probably one of the leaders of it. So that's why folks go down and protest of that decision.
Okay, yeah. Now let's get into this March for Life.
Yeah. So the first time in the march's history, Trump.
Oh yeah, he was at it. He was
person.
at it. Yeah,
the first one,
in
first
person. First president ever, and that goes back through. Think about Reagan, George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr., George W. Those guys, I don't even know if they, did the Jumbotron kind of thing or not. Pence had shown up the last few years, but this is the first time that president, and it's a logistic nightmare.
Oh yeah.
So we got there with plenty of time, but they had this perimeter set up around the stage because they do a rally right on the lawn. So right in front of the Washington Monument there, in between the Washington Monument and the State Capitol building. And they have this thing sectioned off with little, you're talking hundreds of thousands of people trying to get through maybe 50 of these individual, you have to walk through a metal detector, and they had cops, DC cops. So we tried to get through, and we just didn't. So by the time Trump took the stage, we were maybe about 15 feet from getting through.
Oh, man.
And then just as soon as Trump was done, they just stopped.
Well, I can't imagine, especially the world nowadays. With Antifa and all of them doing their stupid crap.
So enemy is president, but keep going.
Maybe that's why.
There was so much. Well, I don't know. I feel like maybe that's why he did it, was just to show they can't scare us into not doing this. Yep. Maybe that's what he was doing. Why he did that. So he could say Antifa can't scare us into being we can't show up for these events or whatever.
It would sound like a Trump. That would sound like a Trump thing to do, right? Yeah. Kind of like if you say it can't be done, watch me do it.
Exactly. That's his mentality.
Yeah. And it was awesome. It was the people were going nuts, and Trump spoke straight from the heart. It wasn't like a canned.
He connects so well with the audience.
Yes, I think
it's like a conversation between.
I read a book. I read a book. It's called The United States of Trump. It's by Bill O'Reilly, and it literally says, and speechwriters, they go write out a speech, and literally Trump just. Most of the time he just folds up, throws away, or just scratches everything off and redoes it all.
And he's that New Yorker attitude is hey, let's just talk. Hey, you see a guy over there? What are they doing? He's just having a conversation. And he's that New Yorker attitude with it.
Yeah,
that just makes it amazing. He when he had his the video I sent you of his press conference about the coronavirus, what they're gonna do. I watched it, I was like, dang, he's really good at doing this. He literally seems like he was born to be a president, actually.
And he has that off the cuff kind of
humor. Reagan kind of had the same off the cuff, write your own jokes and whatever. I just think the main thing is people are tired of the whole PC culture of being political, and he is the perfect thing that's just hey, look, this is America still. We're Americans. We can do what we want.
He sort of shattered that stereotype of a politician.
Drain the swamp.
And he was right about the whole. He's we need to take our dependence off of China. He said that last year.
Yeah,
and it's
just everything.
Look at it. China. Look at what happened. What's happening? Yeah. We have a dependence with drugs in China, and it's he said it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and he said it last year. It's he told companies pull away from China, and this is why he was saying it, because China's now threatening us hey, we're going to withhold drugs. And it's then the worst part about it is you see like in news outlets they're trying to blame Trump. It's like, oh, the economy's falling and everything.
Everything
like,
he does, they'll blame him.
It's like even if he stopped it, he would still be at blame.
But the beautiful thing is, they try.
They
stick everything on him, and he just walks right through it. It's it's like bulletproof almost.
I'm so happy that the American people also are like they're
done with the
they're tired of us being told to what to think.
Or try to tell me that the polls say
exactly.
he's down, and everybody's like,
No.
we got this, whatever.
But now I want to know, isn't it like the biggest, that rally isn't the biggest?
It's purportedly the biggest human rights demonstration in the world. And so you wouldn't understand the magnitude unless you went. But and I think it's intentional. This is it's unfortunate, but you go down there and it's a blackout, okay? Media. So look, think about this.
Right.
ABC, NBC, CNN.
Nobody
covers this.
Yeah, because they're all super liberal.
But it's but how incongruent.
It just shows you it.
Wait, this is the largest human rights demonstration in the world by numbers, and it happens every single year, and it happens right in our nation's capital, and nobody covers it.
Exactly. It just shows you how much bias that is in the media. It's like, no, that's the other thing Americans are really tired of. It's like, yeah, we get it. Everyone has their own view. But it's like not covering the other view. No. That's another story in itself. You can't do that.
Yeah, because like Fox News is biased to the right, like completely far to the right.
Not
and
far.
Everything else,
I would just say they're moderately to the right.
But they're still.
I think the media has made them seem like they're far to the right.
Just because in comparison.
Yeah, because of everything else. I think there's like you have a very small minority, a loud minority, that is talking like they're a majority, when in reality they're nowhere close to. Because if you look at the voting maps, it's like the 7 most urban cities in the U.S. are the only sanctuaries of liberal voters at this far left liberal. I mean, because we need both parties.
Yep.
We can't have you don't want super far left.
That polarization.
Yeah, exactly. When you need bipartisanship, so one side doesn't go and pull a Hitler again, or one side pulls a Stalin again.
Yeah.
Like you go far, either extreme to it is just terrible.
That's why the system works.
Exactly.
It does, and I know people lament over the two-party system, but it's like honestly. Every time that third party gets introduced, it just hands it to the other guy.
Exactly. Like Bull Moose Party, that was just to spite that might be what's happening right now. It's just instead of a third party, people are just going to say, we're just going to vote Trump. Like instead of forming another third party.
Yeah, because there's most folks that fall on that right side. It's not everybody that loves him.
But when you see Joe Biden, Biden is sad what they're doing. Joe Biden has dementia. I have no doubt in my mind he has dementia. I've been saying it for like 5 months.
You wonder if his handlers can't see that.
It's just sad to me because it's like this guy probably does not realize what he's actually doing. Like he thought he was running for Senate still.
When did that day actually said that?
He's like, I'm Joe Biden.
He forgot Obama's
vote
name.
For me for Senate. Like,
he forgot Obama's name.
I shouldn't laugh like that. I mean, that's legit stuff.
It's just
it's
funny because it's funny because
this
is
who
obvious.
You're going with.
Yeah, it's obvious. Yeah.
He's control. They can control him. That's the thing. That's why they're going with him is because they control him.
Bernie Sanders, they can't because and Bernie Sanders, his problem was he just had a radical following, like way too radical. They were all like they had
socialism.
They had released footage of their campaign managers saying like, "Oh, we'll just end up throwing them all in gulags," like the other side. And it's like, dude, you can't have campaign managers saying that. Like, I get it, you're a socialist and everything, like, and that alone should be enough of a deterrent.
Yeah,
we fought a bunch of wars to stop that.
But Joe Biden, the Senate. Oh yeah.
No, I did not realize that.
I didn't hear that either. That is pretty funny.
But it's the back to the right to life thing.
Really
cool to see him there, and it's incredible the size of that. You just like literally, there's a point in the march when you're heading up. Right beside the Capitol building, and you take a right eventually to go because it stops it in front of the Supreme Court. That's the protest, And literally, you cannot see the end of the crowd in front of you because you can kind of see them marching up. And then if you turn around, you can't see the end behind you.
That's crazy.
And literally, it's as far as the eye sees, they're people.
That's awesome.
And it's from sidewalk to sidewalk on
cow.
a four-lane street. I have pictures that are just, you just wouldn't believe it. And so to think that something like this happens.
Yeah, and there's not, like
and there's
you said,
no
there's
coverage at all. No one hears about this. You don't see it on the news.
And then
at
you
all.
see like Joe Biden's like he'll have a campaign somewhere, and it's like they make it seem like there's like hundreds of people, and it's like okay, he's maybe got 50 people there.
Yeah.
No, I
Holy wow.
You were telling me about the stories about people on the side of the road who were like yelling at you guys. Yeah. And it just seemed like they were just.
So I've been down here, this is probably, if I counted, maybe six or seven times. And I'd say this year more than others. There were probably 4 that stuck out to me. There's usually always 1 or 2 groups that are anti-life, is what I would call it. But and they'll do their little thing. They'll have a poster but what stuck out to me, these 4, and they were so different. One was a black guy. One was an older white guy on a bike. And another was a woman, kind of heavy set, all like dressed in kind of gothic kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And anyway, so at different points in the march, it wasn't like it was concerted. They weren't in concert here. And literally it was shouting at the top of their lungs. So the black guy was yelling at us with the middle finger and just cussing up a storm. And there's kids, right? And half of them are like, hey, buddy.
Seriously.
Yeah.
The public act civilized. Like, we're a civilized society.
This demonstration, all we do when we march is either pray, chant, sing, or otherwise it's silent. Like, it's just a peaceful, silent demonstration. There's that people clean up the trash after themselves.
Yeah.
There is nothing threatening about it. But these guys, each one of them were, I even told somebody after the fact, I thought, it strikes me that this was borderline demonic. Like I looked at
They're
look at
crazy.
these people's faces.
I'll see the videos of it, and it's like you're not persuading anyone.
No, right.
You're making the argument against you.
You're damning yourself there.
Yeah, exactly. A demon is the perfect way. You'll see the videos.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine especially with the kids around too. That's the worst. Because it's we're a civilized society, act civilized. Like if you don't. People don't have to agree with you 100% of the time. You'll meet someone in your life that doesn't agree with your opinion. Like you can try to persuade them as much as you want, but sometimes you never could, you never will.
Yeah. Part of me, if somebody wants to come out there and disagree and even kind of stick a wrench in the works, I kind of respect it because it's like, dang, it takes some guts.
Yeah.
To get out. I mean, you're talking hundreds of thousands of people marching through here, and you're like one guy on an island out here. But it wasn't anything that you would look at and be like, I respect that. It was more like,
he's crazy.
What is going on?
Yeah.
It was, yeah. In each case, it was like eerie almost. So and maybe that's just in my mind. I don't know. But I'd been there a number of times, and I had not seen stuff like that. So it was interesting this year.
I think I know what you're talking about. It's like I ran into like a crazy homeless person out west once, and it was just like they came up to me and they're like, "They're gonna get me. They're gonna get me. They're gonna get me." And I was just like, I had this weird feeling, like my body was telling me like, "You need to get away from this person because you don't know what they'll do because they seem crazy. They were crazy." Yeah. I get what you're saying. The eerie feeling is probably like you don't know what's gonna happen because of how irrational this person is being right now.
Yeah.
Like if you want to disagree and talk about it, yeah, you should do that instead. Like, because this is 21st century. We're talking about it. We're a civilized society.
Yeah. Now, like, since you should talk to me. Like, what would you sort of say to someone about like, when they say like it's my body, it's my choice? Because it sounds like that's like the biggest argument against this is it's my body, it's my choice. Right. Well, I mean, what would you kind of say to them?
Yeah, so I mean, it's obviously a delicate issue, especially nowadays when it's like it's become, or at least the other side has painted it to be about us who are pro-life not being pro-woman.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh,
It's been created as an issue that... anyway.
I get what you're saying. Like me, I morally think abortion is wrong. Like whatever there's certain circumstances I can agree with, but like morally I disagree with it, and I don't think you should do it. But politically, I think to myself, I'm like, the government shouldn't be able to tell either way. Like it shouldn't be but if the state wants to, yeah, I think the state should. That's the point of the government, is like, if you disagree with this, then go to a different state. If that state allows it, then you're happy.
And here's where I would push back, Frank, on that. I mean, I've heard a pretty solid priest up in Michigan essentially say the pro-life issue is not even a religious issue. It isn't even a moral issue per se. He's like, it's a civil rights issue. Yeah. And here's why. So check it out. What is the one thing a government is instituted to do?
Protect its people. Yeah.
So you said the government shouldn't have a say.
Yeah, I see that.
So like, who is the most innocent and vulnerable citizen in our country? A baby and a woman. Literally. So if the government can't stand by protection of that innocent life, what is it good for?
I think I see your argument too, and to me it's because of how it used to be. Religion was the thing. That was the highest law. It was like this under religion you're going against the Bible doing this. Like so.
And you can make that argument, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't have to be,
because a lot of people don't go for that. So I guess that argument would be good, because a lot of people believe in government.
Oh yeah,
and not the Bible. I think that's a good argument for them, because
I'm helping your argument. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Because like the government needs to protect people, and that's like the most. I think that's a great argument right there.
Yeah, I mean,
and to me, it's one of those things where it doesn't affect me enough either. That's the other problem with it. Like, I know for a fact I would have a strong standpoint if I was affected by it.
Yeah.
Which, that's why I morally agree with it. I'm as a human, I think, yeah, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think a lot of folks have resigned themselves to the position of, I wouldn't do it. It's not right for me, but if you want to do it, and that's, so Jacob, you started by asking the question, if somebody said, this is my body and my choice, we completely lose sight of the biological fact, right? We're so, everything's science, right? I mean, science is basically the new religion. If we're so scientific, how are we denying the sheer biological truth that from the moment of conception, there is all the DNA that you will ever have as a person, and that entity is not anything but a human. It's not some other animal. It's not like a leech or a parasite in the woman's body. It is a person now. At the moment of conception. So that is a life. That is a person. And so we know that biologically. But then we say, but it's my body. Wait, there's another body. And it's my choice.
Oh, yeah,
wait, this other, you have a choice, but the kid doesn't. So I think you got to work through that language that sort of protects them from the truth.
Yeah,
it's just facts. It's just facts. Biologically speaking, when it comes to the rule of law, the purpose of government, and if you want to get into the religion and moral argument, so be it. But to me, it's like,
well, the worst. I think the biggest. I can't stand to see the stuff. It's like, I'm torn on it because to me, it's like there probably a couple weeks afterwards, that embryo is just the same as every other embryo in the animal kingdom.
It's not.
Which I
just look into it. So like it's interesting you mentioned the word embryo. Like there's a strand of science called embryology, and literally the study of that. Each embryo has a unique set of DNA that would match that DNA of the person when that person is at any other stage in their life. It's set from that moment. And it's settled science.
Well, my biggest thing is like there's a stage of at least a week where there's majority stem cells, and that those cells can become whatever you program them to. With how much we can genetically modify cells, you can change what they actually will be. But that once it reaches a certain point, I'm all against it. It's like 2 weeks, but that's the problem. It could be any number. What's the number? It's like, what, a day? Is it a week? It doesn't really matter at that point. But the thing I can't stand the most is when I see it's like was it like Virginia or the Carolinas or something? The governor was saying like, oh, up till they're born, you can abort them. And that's how can that not be? That's just wrong as a human. It should be wrong.
And if you guys haven't stared at this issue much personally, each of you, I mean, that's the worst of the worst is where you could have somebody describe to you what a late-term abortion is.
Oh yeah. I've seen pictures. I've seen pictures of it, and it's like that's what I mean. It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I mean it's horrifying, and that's the, we talk about coronavirus. We talk about we could talk about other human rights issues or whatever. What the sleeping giant in our society over the course of the last 40, 50 years is that they're, heck, we were just talking about population. I guess that's what led us to this. 60 million, you get that number.
Oh yeah.
60 million children have been killed since Roe v. Wade in America. 60 million. Like, so Holocaust, right? Just do a quick comparison there. How many
and that was
Jews died?
60 years, 73? That's like probably a million?
It's a million a year. Yeah. I mean, a little bit more than that.
That's more than heart disease. Heart disease is like 600,000-700,000.
And when you sift through that data right there, you also find that it's heavily skewed to towards minority groups.
Oh yeah. I've read that data. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And it's just about it's. I mean, that's how it kind of started as eugenics. If you've ever heard that.
Oh
term.
Yeah.
There's a gal named Margaret Sanger who founded Planned Parenthood. And it's just really disturbing stuff. And I think we just do a really good job as a society of sort of like looking the other way, covering it up, using certain words and getting comfortable with it. But like any other issue in the past, whether it's slavery or civil rights, you're just not going to be able to ignore it for forever. And when you go down to this march and you see the numbers and you look around and it's young people.
Oh yeah.
Who are finally waking up to this. You watch. It's
going to start taking off.
It's going to come to an end.
And I guess that's my like. I completely agree. If it's at that point where it's killing so many people, and then I guess you almost have to make it a law that bans it, because it's like the societal stigma is not there anymore. I guess.
Right.
Because I guess that's the reason why it was made a law in the first place that legalized it, because there was a societal shift. But and it's times change. Maybe it's going back. Like you said, there's more and more young people going towards that way.
Yeah. That's encouraging. But the truth of the matter never changes dependent upon the circumstances or the time period. So it was no less wrong in 73 as it was today.
The other thing that annoys me about the whole, like how a lot of the like liberal leaning people they're pro-choice and whatever. It's like it's not consistent with your a lot of the other views. Like I'm all for consistency. Like
so point that out. What do you mean by that?
But like the death penalty, like where a lot of them are against the death penalty or something, and it's like that's kind of the same concept. Like if you're for like late term abortion, like to me that's a living being past a couple maybe just a few weeks. And that's the argument to me is like when that point is. But like a lot of these people are like
are against
this person this you can kill them up to when they're about to come out, but you can't kill someone that's like murdered some people or whatever.
You can kill the most innocent thing in the world.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Or take this is what drives me nuts sometimes politically, right? I might get pigeonholed as a one issue voter, and people are like, this is the Catholic bishop just made this statement here recently, got in San Diego, trying to liken the threat of global warming okay,
gosh.
and put it on par with the issue of abortion.
That's wrong.
So check it out, though. I mean, that's exactly what you're saying,
Yeah.
Frank, is like, okay, when I go to the voters box, I need to be concerned about who is the best advocate of recycling or the one that doesn't sign off on child murder. I'm sorry. I just
Right.
That's probably half the reason why there's so many people pushing for pro-choice is because it's likened to where it's like, oh, it's not really happening. It's like it's pushing it under the carpet, like, oh, well, it's as long as you're not seeing it, then it's not really there. That's the kind of the mentality.
Yeah, but you point out the right thing. I mean, it's crazy how they've, the society and folks that might vote for pro-choice causes will have no qualms about raising such moral ire, like just over some of these issues. Just think about like animal rights. Holy moly!
Exactly, the animals are more valuable than humans. It seems like to them, a lot of them at least. And that's the problem. It's like I feel bad even saying liberal, just because it's a vocal minority. That's probably 10%, at most 10% of the population that's even pushing for this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I mean, most people they're fine with how life has been living the years before, and they don't need change. When a lot of people want change, it's a lot of it's cities. I think so. A lot of it comes from there's starting to be a large polarization between cities and more smaller communities. I don't know what's gonna happen because we've never had cities this big on Earth, this many.
You watch those elections play out, and people are clamoring now for the elimination of the Electoral College,
which is like, okay.
Oh, that's scary.
Do not do that.
Don't do that.
I just have to go and campaign in 7 cities, and then I win the election. That's
Not
like
good.
Literally
United States of California.
51% of the U.S. lives in cities.
Pete.
7, I believe it's like 7 cities.
And got to remind people, folks, we do not live in a democracy.
No, it's a republic.
It's a constitutional republic, and there was some wisdom in how that was originally founded. Don't be going back to the drawing board here.
It's
folks.
like they lived through it all. The founding fathers were smart. Like we've lasted this long. Like
smart.
might as well trust them now.
Yeah.
And like they thought about it a lot more. And we are nowhere. I hate to even like judge it just because it's like we're not even in any close of a situation that they were in. Like imagine being religiously persecuted. You have to leave your home country, most of which were hundreds of years of family lineage being in that country. You run, you get to this place where it's completely woods, wild, and then you have the England trying to say like, oh, you have to give us your money, like instead of trying to live. Like we can't even compare our world nowadays to that.
Yeah.
Just think of what made those people. That's tough. Like I'll trust them until the end.
Yeah. Nope. Absolutely.
How long have we been going here? We've been going pretty long.
Yeah, we can take a break.
Well, I just wanted to say something real quick, and unfortunately have to say this, but for people out there, we started this podcast for people to come on here, say their opinions, their ideas, and everything like that. If anyone has an issue or a problem or disagree with what we're saying or agree, come talk to us or contact us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Let us know, and we can bring you on. I want to hear both sides.
Oh, yeah.
This is a pot. You can say what you want. There's no filters. There's no nothing. This is raw.
This is America
This
still.
is how people feel in real time. So I just wanted to put that out to people who are listening. And
yeah, I'm sure folks out there listening have a different opinion. But I would encourage folks like, hey, you just mentioned something like this where we live in America. Like we have a long tradition of intellectual honesty, right? Like, and we've lost the ability to just sit and talk.
Yeah.
Like really have good
without
dialogue
getting mad.
and debate.
Like people just
It's
get
become
mad
so emotional.
easily.
This is an emotional issue.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly. And that's why like I didn't even go the moral and religious route. I'd rather just talk. Let's just talk about facts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know when somebody holds something, so dearly in terms of it is going to get, they're going to get defensive. So be it. But
I'm going to go and revisit the stuff I once read just because because you've brought these points up that I haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, that's what I mean. It's either side brings about these points, and it maybe it'll end up causing a solution. If there is a solution, or solve the dilemma of it.
It's amazing. Words can do so
words are
much.
so
This is a
powerful.
crazy thing. So
right.
we can take a break real quick here.
Cool.
It's Gotta
delicious.
stay,
10:30.
And we're
I
back.
knew I would need it. I'm telling you, I would have been like drifting over here, even while I was talking.
You're a big coffee guy.
I am a big coffee guy.
What's your favorite coffee guy? Bring your
Yeah, move your mic. Just
Up,
tilt it
no.
up a little bit.
Tilt.
I'm sorry.
Perfect. That's fine.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
What's my favorite coffee guy?
Yeah, no. What?
Are you
what's your
that far of a coffee guy where you're like, I need this type of bean, or
Oh no.
okay.
But I hazelnut coffee. I mean, he ruined me from everything else. Like
he does have some
literally.
good black coffee.
Yeah, I mean, so I used to put all the stuff in it, and now it's like I know what real coffee should taste like. And then even when I go to like a Big B or a Starbucks, and I just get drip brew black roast, and I'm like, it doesn't really get it anymore. His stuff is fresh, man. He roasts it right there, and I was intrigued then by TC's bit.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
he
does.
does coffee beans
because he
too.
talked about like I'm going to do this right in front of you, and that's how fresh it's going to be. That's
Yeah.
like even more fresh than Jeff's.
I ought to try that sometime. Get
Gotta
the
have
beans
them
and
over,
everything. Yeah.
So we could do an early morning one. I'll come over and
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Do-
Make
do
it
a-
in the early morning one.
and then
Get
have
TC
him do
over
the
here
thing.
too.
Yeah,
You can-
yeah.
you
Well,
can make some
you
beans.
mentioned you want a UNTC
Yeah,
on
I
one
got to
of
give
them.
him a shout out. But yeah, because
Yeah,
be a good
bring
one,
these
too.
two and roast some beans up
Oh,
and
yeah.
drink some coffee.
we'll all tip him. Throw the
Yeah, there we go.
20 spot in there.
I can't even remember what like actually good coffee at last I drank was.
Yeah, that
I like the real dark stuff. If I'm
Yeah.
gonna
the real
drink
dark.
something,
Go to Hazelnut and what the French
French
velvet.
velvet.
That
is
is
the
French
deal.
velvet.
Good coffee.
I'll try some of that.
Good
I've
coffee.
yet to go to hazelnuts.
Really?
Yeah, I just never have.
I mean, you live
Yeah,
way out here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Been to Bigsby though. Bigsby was pretty good for
For how cheap it was. I mean,
being used to McDonald's
that's right.
coffee.
Yeah, it's just that French velvet kind of ruined me too. I drink Big B's or
Oh,
just
yeah.
like I'm just like yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
if you
just
like
coffee.
the other stuff, right? There's a whole host of things you can
Mhm.
get. I mean, Mom wanted to. There's a Rooster Joe's in Coldwater.
Oh yeah, Rooster
No.
Joe's.
Yeah.
I had theirs. I mean, it's good.
Rooster
It's just-
Joe's is just coffee
it's
shop.
it's brand new, Coldwater.
Yeah,
It just opened up.
Where at?
I don't.
it's right across from the New Idea building. The,
Oh, yeah.
Totally
Yeah, that's
promotional.
right. Yep.
It's I guess it's in an old credit union building.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, let's see that.
It's good coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Mom.
I went when it was new, so I didn't know if they like perfected everything yet though.
Yeah.
But now, I kind of wanted to. You're the one. I've kind of spoke on this, the Exodus 90 thing.
You've talked about it.
I've talked about it a couple times on this this podcast, but you're the original, the founder for this area at least, the founder for the area, and how I've gotten into
Okay.
how did you come about this? What intrigued you about this? Send it to a bunch of other people.
Well, first the Exodus. Explain what the Exodus is.
No, he probably knows a
you
lot
can.
better,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, so it was founded, a guy named, actually just over in Fort Wayne, a guy named James Baxter
okay.
started this thing up, and it was originally designed for a seminary, Catholic seminary, for priests, or guys studying to be priests. And this rector of the seminary said he brought these guys in, and he realized, they probably are already far and away advanced in their faith, and they still were showing up soft. And he's like, I gotta break these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta get, how maybe a little bit like a drill sergeant might want to do with a new set of recruits, break them down, and I'll build them back up. And so that's what it was really originally designed for. And somehow this guy got his hands on it and said, this is perfect for the laity, for just the average man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think why it appealed to me, and I think why it appeals to other guys, is because, especially in the church, we've just been fed. Maybe we were talking about Jordan Peterson here a little bit ago. we just been fed a bunch of baloney, a bunch of expectations that are low. Nobody in our lives most of the time has been willing to call us out.
Yeah.
And place a set of expectations on us that really makes us
give you
challenge.
some personal responsibility.
Yep. And so I remember it was just one of my buddies was just like, hey, you ever heard of this? And he sent me a link. That was literally it. And it was all I needed. That's the kind of guy I am. I'm like, give me a challenge and let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just probably because it's an overreaction to I'm just fed up with.
It's an overreaction to an overstimulus. Like, you're already being bombarded by all of this stuff, and you almost have to take a giant step back and say, like, okay, then work your way back into it, kind of test the waters.
So literally, it was 2017, or maybe it was 16 was the first year. So I've done it all 4 years since it's been out, and what I get out of it mostly is I get a chance to watch other men realize these gains. So especially this first few weeks. Right now we're in day 62, and it's a slog, man. We are in the desert with like camels and the turban on, and we're looking at an oasis out here. We're lost in the desert right now at day 62, but. Especially those first 2-3 weeks back when we did it with Kyle, you're on a high because you're like, I can do this. First when you ask somebody, hey, you want to do Exodus? And they're like, tell me a little bit about it. And you start laying it out. Okay, no alcohol, no sugar, no TV, no internet. And they're like, whoa, hold on.
How do you do? How can I give everything? How can I give all of this away at the same time?
And then you finish it off, right? The money, the closer is. Oh, and by the way, you got to take cold showers, and most guys are like, whoa, I could. This is always the response. I could do X, Y, and Z because I'm already, But it's always kind of like, so I could do it, but I'd have to not do these things. And I'm like, no, well, that's not Exodus. Sorry, man.
That was the funny thing. When you told me that it involved cold showers, I was just like, that's funny because I'm forced to take cold showers.
For real?
Yeah, for the most part. Like, my water's not that hot, but the problem is I don't have a big hot water heater. So and stepping out of the shower, it's not very warm. That's the other problem. But yeah, I always like taking cold showers in the summer, especially just because it raises your cortisol levels. I feel more awake when I take them in the morning. That's cool that they have that. That's a part of it too.
And
that's an ancient thing too. I believe it was like Marcus Aurelius also did that too.
Is that right?
He was a big proponent of cold showers.
Cold showers, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a tough sell, and you got to hit a guy when he's ready, because and this year has been the same, where it's for whatever reason somebody's not ready for it. Even if they commit early, they don't last. And
I bet the sugar is hardest for most people.
It's different for everybody.
Oh yeah,
that's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I always tell people now. Now that I'm used to it, when I'm trying to make that sell, I'm like, this will expose your Achilles heel, and you may think you know what it is, but just wait. And sometimes for some guys it's snacks. Other guys, everybody complains about the cold shower. Nobody wants that, but it's usually like, oh, I can't do without.
Yeah,
whatever.
Exactly. I have to have I have to eat a Pop-Tart before I go to bed or something like that.
And that's the thing I love about it, and I probably also what appealed to me is like the concept of we are not free. If we're honest, most of us are enslaved
to something. Yeah, you're 100%
or
right.
to a lot of things, and so this is a wake up call for a lot of folks, and I love it. I love watching those people wake up to it. It's that woke feeling, or and so to see the guys have that epiphany, even if I know, at the end of it they may backslide or whatever, you come out of it with that real gain of, I can't let these things run my life.
Yeah.
That old Fight Club line? That old Fight Club line is like, the things you own end up owning you.
Exactly.
That's it. And so
it
Exodus does
exploits the world too. It's like we're so materialistic. It just exploits that. Not just like we're slaves to our diet too.
Oh
yeah.
man,
That's an when you guys are on 62 days?
what's that?
You're on 62 days?
Day 62. Yep.
That's crazy. 66 days is how long they usually say habits form. So
Yeah.
you're right on the cusp.
They used the 90 because there was some Yale study that
Yeah,
said,
I saw that. Yeah,
said
yeah.
the 90 had to be, for somebody checking into
There,
clinically
yeah.
checking in. Yeah. But anyway, so what was your original question? I guess because
You're
Just
kinda
exactly that.
explaining it.
Exactly
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
About
you did.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
talk about it. Yeah. What now? Give us the rundown of what it is, what you can't do on this.
So we
Or,
talked
like,
a few
giving up-
about. We talked about a few of them already.
Yeah, but
cold showers.
you just know. I mean,
yeah.
you've got it. I mean,
Yeah,
what
so
is-
they focus on food. There's no alcohol, no sweets. That's candies and all that stuff. So desserts, no sweet drinks. So you're just strictly water, milk, black coffee is still allowed, which is crucial.
Oh yeah.
And then you can't snack in between meals. And then it focuses on tech. So unless it's for work, you can't use any social media. You can't watch television. You can't use the internet. So you do essentially a blackout on your tech. And then on top of that, you do some positive things. You're supposed to pray for an hour a day. You're supposed to work out, and it's just regular intense exercise. So basically, step it up from what you're doing. And then there's also 7 hours of sleep a night.
Which is probably most people don't get.
That's tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing. Then you do the cold shower. So there's a lot of intentionality, and then what you do is you bundle that together with a group of guys. So there's a fraternal aspect to it because you try to hold each other accountable, lament together, all that good stuff. So it's a religious thing. It's a God centering endeavor, and so you pull this stuff out and you watch yourself grow closer to God, grow closer to the people you love. And all of a sudden, you really start to realize, I'm a slave, I'm weak, and in the end, you're like, I'm free, and I'm stronger. And that's what it is. I mean, I love it. That's why I do it all the time. Like, I'll even do it for guys if they want to do little short stints throughout the year. I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it's helped me tremendously, and I love to watch other guys do it. So,
absolutely.
We
Yeah,
definitely. It's like the it's like Sober October that Joe Rogan and them do.
okay.
Yeah.
They do a Sober October, and then they'll have like where they all challenge themselves to like physical activity. Where they had like that one app like a couple years ago, like last year was the app. Did you watch Sober October?
No.
Oh, you should watch it. We need to
Okay.
start doing something like that. Like you said, it's like once you start making it like a competition too, then it's just like. I mean, I'm really competitive. Most dudes are really competitive.
No.
That's a good program just to do. I mean, even if you can't get that fraternal, like the brother, like a lot of people doing it, people don't feel scared of it. Even if you can't have anybody helping you, try to do it.
Yeah.
Like anybody could do it.
This Sober October, like, is they just pick something and they
No, they
kinda
don't
it, or
do.
is it
They
just-
don't do
what is-
drink or like
Oh,
do any drugs, whatever, and then they'll say like the one of them was like they timed how much cardio they were doing every day through like an
Okay,
app.
okay.
And whoever won whatever they put like money on the line or something like that. I forget
Okay.
what it was.
Okay.
But make a goal.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's
Yeah,
the other
so it's
maybe that's why it's so helpful is it's goals. Like you just need something to
Yeah.
set the
Go
goals for
forward
you.
to it, yeah.
And that's on the flip side, man. On Exodus, you get into this pattern where you're like, okay, I got these restrictions, and you're almost it's odd, right? You put a whole bunch of rules on yourself, and you feel free.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Freer. And then when you're off of Exodus and you're quote unquote free to do whatever you want, you don't know what the heck you're doing. I'm eating anything and everything, and it's miserable. So that's why I always end up going back. I'm like, after about a month or two of being off of, you're like, I got to go back.
I think it probably just forces you to get into a routine.
Yes.
We're just such routine animals that it's just like we need that. And when you don't have it, like you said, you feel like crap. It's like you eat like crap, you'll sleep like crap, whatever.
Yep. You guys heard this term keystone habit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
ever hear that? That's what I think. Ultimately, you can come away with some things that can make just a significant difference in your day to day when you realize, hey, for me, it's been like I need to go to bed. So the 7-hour thing, I need to go to bed around 10. And I need to wake up every day at 5, and I need to do these things. I got to get a workout in. I got to get some prayer in. And I got to do that. I got to make time for that. And my whole day goes better.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to get traction on the diet thing because that's one of the things I struggle with. I just love food. So I'm really disciplined during exits. But when I fall off, man, I fall off hard on the food
snacking.
train.
I know that from just a diet perspective, snacking that makes any diet you try to get into really hard.
Yep.
When you start just eating something that you'll start because it'll start with a little bit. You give yourself an inch, you'll end up taking a foot.
Yeah.
Like
As soon as you slip that first time, it's like
so much easier to do it again. That's the snack. Snacking was always difficult for me too. Whenever I'd be like on a hard. And that's one of those things where you can't think of it as a diet. It's almost like it has to be a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like you got to make it a lifestyle.
And I still haven't figured that out. I've been talking to Jake, right?
The getting
Well, it's probably tough
continuing.
too.
Yeah.
It's tough with kids. I would think it's probably tough with kids' diet, especially.
But it seems like anything else. I mean, a habit's a habit.
Yeah, that's true.
You can form them. You can stick to them. Like I was listening to the Bacher storyline, and he talking about the keto. And that's inspiring, like he's continued it on for whatever he said 6 months afterwards. And I don't know what he said he lost. It was a ton of weight, but
he lost a ton of weight.
yeah.
And I'd love to do that.
And I'm sure it's not just the weight; he probably feels better.
Yeah,
it's a keystone habit, right? That's the thing that makes everything else in life
and
go
people,
better.
like you said, people don't realize how much they are a slave to it until they actually take a step back and take a break from it and realize, like, whoa. Like I'm very happy now. Like I'm not needing that
take the
dopamine
fog
rush
off
of social media or
take
whatever.
the fog out of their head, and that's what people always say.
It makes you wonder. Makes you wonder why in the world do we keep going back to the stuff that makes us
It's
miserable?
weird.
Man, it is strange, and
I ask myself the daggone question because
I think it's just people hardwired to us. We will do whatever rewards us the easiest. Like wherever we feel happiness from, the easiest way we can get happiness, the more we'll want to do it.
now,
what you say?
No, I was just actually because you tried the carnivore diet for a month.
Actually, I did it for 60 days. I actually,
did you? You did it for 60 days? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did. Well, now I'll be honest here. I did a carnivore-ish. So what I ended up doing, just because when I listened to the Rogan, I listened to the Peterson storylines, the Dr. James Baker.
Yeah, they don't go. Baker. They don't go full blown. Some of them go.
Baker does. Joe Rogan did. He went full blown. He just.
Peterson experimented with it a little bit.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
and that's where I like the word of caution I kept coming across was this is going to mess you up.
Oh, it does.
In your digestive tract. And I'm like, I'm not trying to. I don't need that.
Yeah.
In addition, because I'm doing it at the same time I'm doing Exodus, and so what I did is I just got a keto book, and I just picked a handful of foods that I thought, all right, well, so I did like plain yogurt. I did a broccoli and asparagus and mushrooms. I did peanut butter because I knew I would need a little something to give me a little halfway sweet flavor.
You need fats too. Those fats are really good.
Fats are great for it.
Yeah. So literally a handful of things like that. Almonds was one. And so I might have a list of like 8 things that I added to meat. But for 60 days, and it's interesting, I wanted to be able to talk about this tonight because I'm still processing it. And I don't know what to do with myself. So we go back, we're just talking about habits. It's the strangest feeling. I'm in this mode for 60 days straight of when I go to the fridge, I know exactly what I'm picking up.
Yep.
I'm grabbing the yogurt or I'm grabbing the pound of beef, and it's easy. And now after 60 days, if I kid you not, these last 2 days, I'll go to the pantry or I'll go to the refrigerator, and I don't know what to do. Like I can have something, but I'm like, but that has carbs in it. And
Oh yeah. Well,
that'll
I'm
make me feel miserable.
Yeah. You start thinking about it all because you realize it all. You realize how much you're actually exposed to it once you really think about it. Like, once you remove carbs, then you're just like, oh wow, there's carbs in so much stuff.
I'm looking at all these labels.
Hard, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to look. It's hard to find food that don't have carbs in it.
And that's why I was like, I'm all for the carnivore diet, but myself, like, it's tough to be on a full blown carnivore diet because it's hard to eat enough meat to where you have enough constant energy. Carbs are great for that, but I've noticed as long as you just keep the processed stuff out, that's the biggest thing. It's just that processed sugars, or what really drives your energy in that fog. It creates that fog.
And I know there's a reasonable approach to reintroducing. I'm hopefully I'm going to figure it out. But the other aspect of it is it's expensive.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So what you just said, like, I don't know if it's practically speaking, can you
definitely
sustain
not.
it?
Unless I was like having a herd of cattle where I could just slaughter one every couple weeks and eat it all.
Yeah,
it's not economical for
literally,
the average person.
Today I was like, my wife made me go to the freezer and count how many pounds of hamburger we had left. And we always buy a quarter of a cow, and there was like 23 pounds left. And I go back inside and I'm like texting my buddy who raises cows, and I'm like, you got anything? Because I don't get another one until July.
Yeah,
when the next bunch are already going to the slaughter.
And I'm not seeing myself at this point anyway being comfortable going right back to like 2 bowls of cereal for breakfast and big sandwiches.
I would say from a word of experience, gradually push yourself back into that because you'll like. I jumped back in at one time when I was on the stint, and I absolutely was in the bathroom constantly.
Yeah.
I was just like, my body did not like it. It was not ready for that.
So I did experience this. Not that way. I wasn't in the bathroom, but twice now. So last night I had some China wok.
That's a big jump, drastic change in diet. It's a lot of salt compared to what you're probably used to.
And I knew this going in, man, but it sounded so good. And I'm telling you, and it happened one other time, and I think I just went overboard on the peanut butter. But it's the same feeling. It was just the weirdest thing that I felt like a numbness in my face. Like I kept explaining it to my wife, like it's like a fuzzy feeling in my face, behind my eyes, and I was in a fog. Like, and I don't know if this is because I'm reintroducing this stuff to my body, but I'm like freaking out. I don't want that to happen again. Mm-hmm. So
it's the processed stuff. That's my interpretation of it, because I know exactly what you're talking about, and I've noticed it's mainly from processed stuff that's been like not really. The less natural it is, the more the fog will be created. And I'm not saying like processed stuff where like wheat is obviously processed to make bread, whatever. Yeah. But I'm saying like high fructose corn syrup is not natural at all. Like corn is was never supposed to be sugar. Like
your body doesn't know what it is, so just like
it doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, it's like
is it fat or is it?
I'm just gonna turn it into fat or do something with it, and just not good.
I'll give you an energy brush or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you just imagine. And I think to that the same concept, that fog. It's like, then you think about the kids. Like,
right.
It's like, well, imagine this is the reason why so many kids have ADHD or something, is because they have that fog.
They put that stuff in their bodies.
Or like when people are making like, I don't know if you heard, like people are like going against like vaccines and stuff.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
And it could, because they think like of they're it's causing all these autism and all this stuff.
Yeah,
but maybe it is the processed food.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's like the vegan. It's like veganism. How they're bypassing the facts just so their argument is correct, instead of like trying to have the facts behind it too, because it can be factually right to a point, but they want to push it to a major, like all the way overboard. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, that's a can of worms there. The vaccine.
I just think that's foolish, because it's like it works. It works if you don't vaccinate your kid. It works maybe if a few people in every community don't vaccinate your kid. That completely is fine, because we have it's herd immunity, and it's the same as in cows. It's like if most of the herd is immune to a disease, then pretty much there's no chance that the
Yeah.
person that's not is going to get it. But now you're having these communities where large amounts of them aren't vaccinated against measles, which is like measles was completely almost eradicated, and it just now is making a return in certain areas. Like
Yep.
they're not vaccinated against measles, then you have these outbreaks. Then
Yeah.
it just starts right back to where it was.
So when we investigated it for our kids, because you'd hear those things, and we know folks that don't vaccinate, and I get where they're coming from. But what we decided on doing, and part of where we struggled a little bit, was when you have kids, there's like a almost like a chart where it's almost required. It becomes required when school's introduced.
Oh yeah.
But what happens? You get this infant, this little 6-pound baby, and they want you to like start injecting.
See, that's
a
what
whole bunch at once, and so in not even like a whole bunch, but like all jammed into one serum that they're giving them.
It's like when I had to go to college, you had to do the same exact. They had tried to give me like 6 at the same time.
And I'm just like, I don't know. Part of me is just like, okay, common sense. And maybe, you can tell me all the medical stuff and it's safe. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. How about? And so what we ended up doing is, and we had to fight a little bit with some nurses. We'd be like, we're going to get them, but we're just not going to get them on your time frame. We're going to spread it out a little bit. Just try to, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but for us, that was where we fell.
I think
so our kids get immunized, but we just take our time with it.
Yeah.
I think they're a lot of them are over prioritized too. When in reality there could be maybe just a few of the vaccines could only be needed.
Right.
They should give it an option like, hey, your kids really, really need this one vaccine, and we just if you're completely against it, whatever. But if you're not going to give your kid any of them, at least give them this one.
And they will. They'll. Some folks are better than others. Some people in the medical profession might almost get offended, and I get it. Maybe they're like, this is an ignorant place to come from. But other ones are like, okay, that's cool. Let me tell you why they would do that very thing that you just said, Frank. So,
I'm glad they do that. Yeah, because like I don't like. You're living through it right now.
Like the main stuff you really need to get. Like I haven't had a flu shot or like any of those like flu shots in probably years. Years. I haven't had a flu shot. But like the main stuff, like the measles, mumps,
rubellas, whatever,
polio, and all that crap.
Well, you don't need polio. Well, that's the thing. Like people don't realize is if something like that, like we've pretty much completely eradicated polio. But imagine if, like, when you completely eradicate something and then you don't it gets reintroduced, it will rampage through like wildfire. Yeah. And so, like, not vaccinating your kids might just also create them just to be an incubation tank for it later on in life when everyone else isn't vaccinated against it.
Yeah.
Because I think they stopped. Like baby boomers were the last ones to get polio vaccinations.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it left a scar. Believe it. Yeah.
Yep. I know what you're talking about. I remember seeing
really?
that.
Wow.
It leaves a scar for life. My dad showed me his.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Right, it's like right on there.
It's a weird looking
mark.
mark.
It's like a diff. Doesn't look not normal. It's definitely from a vaccine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't. I remember like when the H1N1 was going around and like all of like some. Like people would come into school and like have like stations of people getting shot stuff. I never got.
Yeah, I didn't get any.
The
like
H1N1
I've never gotten a flu.
like
I've
that.
never gotten a flu shot.
I haven't either.
I think those are perfect just for elderly. Because I think that's what I mean. That's who they're made for. That's who they try to get the people to get the flu shots. Because they're not being exposed to those flu strains at all. Because just think about elderly are in their houses most of the time. They're not out and about as much as young people.
Right.
That's why this coronavirus is so dangerous, just because there's no herd immunity at all currently.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's
the trouble with it.
Brand new.
Novel, right?
Yeah, the novel
On a
part of
novel,
it, yeah.
I didn't know what that meant until
that's
actually
what
just recent.
Novel
like,
virus
today,
is no herd immunity.
No herd immunity.
And I think it also means that it usually jumps from an animal to a novel virus is usually, I believe that was
animal to human.
Yeah, like there also is a name for that.
There's no natural immunity. I think this is going to be a next couple of months is going to be an interesting couple of months to look out for this stuff. And
it's isolated as a result of a spread to an animal or human host where the virus has not been identified before.
Animal to human.
See, like all of like coronavirus is a group of viruses too. So like SARS and MERS. MERS. Those are all types of. The common cold is a type of coronavirus.
Right.
And so, I mean, we'll see how it goes. The biggest thing is like the Spanish flu was a big we haven't had one of those in a long time,
right?
And that's the worry thing.
About that.
That's the worry thing.
50 million people died from the Spanish flu.
And think of the world.
1918.
Yeah. Think of the world. I had two great aunts die from the flu, from the Spanish flu, and think
obviously,
of how big the world population was back then.
Very,
it wasn't
very different set of circumstances, obviously, but still, that's 100 years ago, right? I mean, that's sobering to think about.
Oh, yeah.
I just think of how big the world population was compared to 60 million. Like, world population.
Just Google it.
How many people do we have in the United States? I mean,
300 million? Yeah, 350.
300 million?
Something like that.
Okay.
1.8 billion.
Man, that's a lot of people.
So 60 million, boy, that's a few percents. That's like 4%.
That's a lot.
Still,
of people.
those are big numbers.
That's giant number.
numbers.
And just think about it today. If that same thing, that's at like a 4%, whatever, which is if we use numbers now, which is right around the coronavirus, what it is. Except now, like the nations that are testing it are being shown to really lower the mortality rate because they're not overwhelming their healthcare. Like South Korea is like, I think they have like a 0.6 mortality rate, while Italy has got like a 7%. Like we were saying earlier, it's like probably a lot of it's due they have a large elderly population, whatever. But
So you're saying if they
test it and find it and stop it from spreading as fast, then the healthcare system can't be overwhelmed. And that's why, like, Fanucci, I think is the CDC director, was saying, we have to lower the curve. Like, if we had a huge outbreak of it and all of these viral cases of viral pneumonia happen, all of the hospital beds get filled really fast. And so there's no, like, imagine if somebody, like in I believe it was in Italy, they're having to turn away elderly because the younger people are starting to get it because of how much they are exposed to it. Imagine healthcare workers.
Yeah.
You would eventually get it, regardless of how old you are, if you're exposed to it 24/7.
And then you're in that dreadful situation, right, where you're like, which one are you going to treat?
Exactly.
The one that's 75 or the one that's 25?
We don't want to get that.
You don't want to be
that's
there,
what
right?
we don't want to. That's why it's like you better overreact in this situation than underreact.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, do you think
That's a good point.
Do you think we're taking good steps to?
Yeah, I think we're as much as we can because the biggest thing with America is like, this is America. We're free people. You can't tell people like, hey, you can't leave your house, and we will have guards make sure you're not. It has to be like a communal thing where everyone's just like, hey, let's agree. If you get this, you're not leaving your house because you don't want to just screw over everyone else. Just because you don't have anyone that might actually get damage from it doesn't mean you can't act like you do. And I'm not like, I'm just regurgitating information I've like heard from specialists or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a good Peak Prosperity is a guy who he's like a virologist on YouTube.
His name's Peak?
No, his
That's his
business.
Okay.
Peak Prosperity. I've been listening to a lot of him, and he's really straightforward. The biggest Peak,
Prosperity?
yeah.
I've listened to that.
The biggest thing is how much it's. I have the biggest problem with the amount of there's too much not straight talk. It's not straight talk where it's like, regardless of if it's gonna really cause people to like get a panicky or whatever, it's like people need to know. Like, it's like, hey, if this person gets tested and they have it, it's not like, oh, we got to hide their identity and stuff. It's like people need to know who has it so they can make sure it's like, oh, if I was in contact with this person, I probably need to quarantine myself too because of how fast it spreads. It spreads way too quick.
Yep.
And the other problem is, I'm not trying to fearmonger or anything. It's just that, like, right now we're seeing it's not there's not it's not spread to enough of populations to create a herd immunity. I believe it's like 70% of a population needs to get it before the population will gain herd immunity.
Oh boy.
England, I believe, Boris Johnson just said, we're probably just gonna not test anymore and let people get it because we're just gonna hope for herd immunity, which I don't think that's a great idea. I think the biggest.
Oh boy.
You wonder what's the point of the numbers at a certain
point. It's like because right now it's cluster boom. It means it's got like double digits, triple digits, and then it goes off like Italy or whatever. But Italy's starting to stop it. They're slowing it down. The thing that worried me was Italy had like 200 and something deaths in a day, like
a bunch.
day or two ago.
Yeah. They did have a bunch.
Which time is just going to show.
Yep. That's all it is. Now, Chad, what do you do for a living?
We've been talking about that.
You don't want to go down that path. Nobody wants to talk about insurance.
I mean, honestly,
yeah. So I sell insurance for Stolly Insurance, family business. I was a teacher for 6 years, roundabout. That's what I went to school for. And
no, what? I mean, no. Keep going. I'll ask you.
No. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, like, why. What did you? Because I sort of know your back. Like, what did you sort of see in the schooling system that is the reason why you got out?
It wasn't one factor in particular that made me get out. It just so happened to be I was at a point where I had to get my master's degree. I was at like year 6 or whatever, and at the same time the family came calling. We had just moved back to the area, and I was still not. I still wasn't fully employed. I was subbing. And then I got a job in Sydney at the Sydney Middle School, and so I told the family I'm just going to give this a year and see it through. So there was a seed planted essentially, and part of what I at the time was reading and getting into was some of the homeschooling movement, considering that for my own kids, and I became a little disenchanted with the system of education.
I don't blame you.
Yeah,
my cousin was homeschooled, and he started college at 16, and he graduated before I was even on my second year.
And so I was part of that system. So there were struggles that you'd have with that. You mentioned testing earlier. So there's a lot of that, and there are a lot of good folks in education. And you hear some stories where folks that have been doing it for 30 years now can't hardly take it. You know, they're ready to retire early, and a lot of people probably get into it wanting to help kids, and it becomes so much more than just that.
helping kids.
You want to get in that
because they have
class.
to worry about it.
Yeah,
it's like they have their income's not gonna, their wages won't raise as fast, and they have to worry about that stuff.
So really, I just had an opportunity to get out, and it wasn't like I didn't enjoy a lot of aspects of teaching, but I just jumped. I kind of took a leap of faith there, and I never looked back. It's been great. I never thought of myself as a salesman for sure. At one point in time in my life, I told folks that I loathed small talk, and that's what I do for a living now. So anyway, and as a teacher, you live you live on like a little island. It's just me and my classroom.
Yeah.
Now it's like if I'm that way, I sell nothing. So so now I got a cold call. I got to get out, network, etc. And so it's made me a better person, a better man. Kind of forced.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Sales is tough because you learn like failure.
Yes,
I guess.
yes.
Or you learn somebody really just not wanting what you're. Because not many people experience that.
It's a big pill to swallow.
Yeah, when somebody's saying no, I don't want to buy what you're selling.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be hard to sell insurance because everyone has insurance and they already have what they want. Like, is it just like convincing them to buy yours, or is it like they're done with theirs and they come to you? Or
on one hand, it's easy because everybody has to have it.
Yeah.
If you think about some products you might have to sell, it'd be like you have to convince somebody to buy something they never have bought. Or for half of it, they're compelled by law to buy auto insurance.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times a bank will say, hey, you got to buy insurance on your home because there's a mortgage. So that kind of stuff makes it easy in one sense, but you're right. There's like tons of competition and there's complacency in terms of the consumer. A lot of times that it's like, just leave it. It's the last thing I want to do is look at that. And so sometimes you get stuck and it's just about price. Don't want it to be about that. I really believe like what I've come to learn anyway is like, this is still a product that's more, it's not like a commodity. It's really a service. So if you can be about relationships and
that's why your smaller businesses can survive too. Like,
because there is a lot of this stuff online, right? You can go get this quotes
but people don't want that big because it's like we're losing trust in institutions. So it's like everyone wants to support smaller business. So I feel like that's why that's a good market for insurance, small, like locally and everything.
And I'm all about that, right?
Yeah.
Like, why do I go buy the coffee I buy, or why do I go to this particular restaurant and not another one? Well, it's probably because I feel welcome there, and I know these people, and they say hi to me by name, and that's what insurance isn't exciting a lot of times, but hey, it's important. People have wealth and they have nice things that they want to protect, and they got to do it. They know they got to do it, and so I get a chance to meet. You wouldn't believe. That's how I love my job. Not just the people who have the home and autos, and that's great in and of itself, but I also get to chase businesses. So I go out and insure these big businesses, or small businesses technically, but I'm just amazed at the ingenuity, the work ethic, the caring that these business owners have. I get to go out and see people who cater, who manufacture, who run farms, who drive truck for a living. I mean, everything. I get to see the whole entire, like the whole scope of American industry, and I get to see the people who do it. And I get to forge a relationship with them, and they trust me, and I just like, hey, let me help you here. And sometimes if there's a claim, or sometimes if the rates are going up, I get to be that guy that jumps in and sort of solves a problem for them. So it's cool in that regard.
Very nice.
It's like, because I remember when our barn burned down, it was like, dude, we would have been, if we didn't have our insurance, like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like, in some aspect, like you said, auto is you have to have it, whatever, but like, people don't realize how much they might actually need it until something actually happens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can, especially a small business owner, you can budget for that $10,000 premium, but you can't budget for that $500,000 fire.
Yeah.
That puts you out of business. So, yeah, it totally makes sense to do. Everybody says that's a necessary evil. Yeah. But the folks that have had claims probably stop talking about it that way. They realize how important.
I think it's like there's a stigma just because of how big some insurance companies have gotten. I think that they've brought that stigma to the floor anyways. Just because.
Here's a cool little fact. I remember learning like one of the first days of the insurance class, and most people don't realize this. Don't get me wrong. Insurance companies have lots of money. But
they have to. I mean, they're insurance companies.
Right. So you want to be with an insurance company that's loaded. Because in the event of a catastrophic event, you want them to be able to pay for it, right? And here's how they make money, believe it or not. Most companies, a good year is that they take in $1 and pay out 97 cents in claims. That's insane. That margin is so small. Yeah, and so the literally they'll be like, yeah, our combined ratio is 97. They're thrilled. So here's law of large numbers, right? So you take that $1 and multiply it times millions, right? As of premium coming in. They take that money and pay their employees, keep the lights on in their buildings and all their tech, and then they have a couple of pennies left over. And what do you think they do with it? Invest. Yeah. So big numbers, right? And that's where the financial stability comes in. Those guys do a good job of investing. Think about what that does for the economy, right? So there's this whole other world that most people just see like greedy insurance, especially when maybe they've had a bad experience of something, claims denied, for instance.
Well, I had no idea that I just recently learned about reinsurance companies.
Yeah.
I had no idea that the insurance companies had insurance on their insurance.
Really?
Yeah, it's reinsurance. Is
interesting.
So literally, they'll say, we insure this $20 million building, and they'll just take on with their own capital, their own money, a certain percentage of that, and then they'll have reinsurance purchased over and above that. So they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
that, the average consumer's doing.
Interesting.
And that's how they spread that out.
Yeah,
that
because
risk.
it's like the tornado. Like if a tornado went through, then they don't have like the insurance company isn't going to be put out of business by like, say, 40 homes
Right.
have a tornado come through and wipe their homes out. One insurance company doesn't have that much capital on hand.
And think about guys the fires out
Yeah.
west, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a hurricane. Like those kinds of events. We're talking
Like those
billions.
are large. Yeah, like you
Oh,
said,
yeah.
billions.
So that's why it's like, all right, I get why you're like insurance companies. His dad always says this: just collect premiums and deny claims. He does even gestures.
Yeah.
He does the gestures, and I'm like, all right, I get it. But ask him to sing that song now after the tornado hit his house.
Mm-hmm.
Bring Doug Stolley on here. I'll call you out right now, Dad. Anyhow, that's what I do.
I remember
Good
that
stuff.
tornado. That was a bit. I was outside
crazy.
digging a moat.
I was
Seriously, I could hear it. It was like a train.
it hit at like 8 o'clock. I think
No, it was
at-
later. No,
It was later. It was like at
Okay,
it was like at the
yeah, it was 10
It
o'clock.
was dark.
Yeah, it was 10 o'clock, and at 10:30, I'm trying to weave my way through to get to my
that's
parents'
right.
house because my mom and dad were in Germany with my sister,
Yeah.
and I was just like I had to stop, and luckily I knew some of the cops because I was a cop. So I'm like, hey, can I park right here? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. So I just got out and I walked, and it was literally houses in the middle of the road.
Oh, yeah.
It was like.
It's a miracle that only one person passed from that. Like that's
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I remember I was outside and I was digging a moat. Of course, that's just weird.
Digging them out.
But yeah, I remember I was just looking. I was like, "Dang, it's like the rain got cold." And I was like, "Boy, the rain's getting cold." I was like, "The wind's picking up." I was like, you could just. It was like a feeling I had. I was just like, "This is not a good storm."
yeah.
Then you could hear it. Then I heard off in the distance, like it was the telephone pole snap because it was right across
man.
33.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would sound like a locomotive coming.
Yeah, I as a cop, I watched a video of the tornado that ripped through right down on Haveman,
Oh yeah.
and I was watching a video of it at the police station, and like you saw, the rain was going one direction, and then when the tornado hit, you literally watch it just stop and just go right towards the
They move.
the tornado. It was crazy. I'm like, holy cow, how much power that
Yeah,
thing has
yep.
to just suck everything right back to it. That's insane.
Humbling.
Oh yeah, how tiny we are with this
Oh,
great
yeah.
universe of just mass destruction, but can
Chaos.
but can keep us alive at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, I like how like the small business, like you guys meet each other like you face to face and you kind of make it personal stuff. I kind of had the experience with like gun stores. Like I go to gun stores and people just act like you're just another customer and they know more than you and stuff like that. And then I went to a different gun store and these guys were just, oh hey how's it going?
Yeah.
Like, and they talked to you. And then it was awesome. And I go there now every single time and I don't go to the other place.
Yeah, I would
nice.
rather support small business too. It was just like, I don't know, like you said, it's more down to earth.
And I'll tell you what, you guys are doing this podcast, and it's in Salina. It's this area, and this area has some incredible small businesses. Like, and it's not. I'm not just saying that. Like, it's unique. If you listen to politicians or other people that are involved in the community talk about, you have tourists that'll come to this area, and they're like, this place is incredible. We sit here and we take it for granted. But then when you get to like me, get a chance to peek behind those curtains, you're like, it's unbelievable what people are doing right here in small town Salina.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Huh. I never actually looked at. I've always thought small town Salina is just Salina.
Yeah, what does it have to offer? You get that work life balance where it's like there's not the same kind of headaches and the same kind of disconnectedness that you might have in a city, but you get career. I mean,
Really industrious too.
Yeah.
This whole
yeah.
area is extremely very dramatic.
always the
moment.
lowest unemployment
Yep.
in the state.
That is
It's
true.
always
Yeah.
like that around here. Yep.
Yeah, that I'm in Salina.
So I don't know.
It's I grew up here. Just I guess I take it for granted that there's nothing here can't do anything here, but it's awesome
There's a
here.
lot of stuff to do here.
But yeah,
You want to call it there?
how long have we been going for?
About an hour.
Have we been? Holy cow! That one. That's
One
this
hour.
last one.
49 minutes.
49.
You guys can't get off the airways here without talking a little religion. I told Jacob before we came on here, I wanted the
politics and
two untouchables, politics and religion.
Oh, absolutely, bro.
And
Yeah.
you guys have, well, we talked about Exodus a little bit, but she ducked and dodged and weaved on that. Well, we talked about abortion too, I guess.
Yeah.
And those are heavy hitting subjects.
Those are very. Oh man,
Undoubtedly.
That's a real heavy hitting.
You didn't know you'd be going down that.
Yeah, that one's a big one.
Oh, I knew. I wanted to bring that up because
yeah.
you,
Well, it's good to
you,
talk about it too, because that's half the problem. Is people are just like
scared to talk
I don't
about
want
it.
to talk about it.
Yeah.
What
Yeah. It's
what
my
do you-
favorite things to talk about, right?
Step on
Like,
someone's feet. Yeah.
what do you got to say about religion then? Because you said you wanted to you dodge, dip, duck, and dive.
Yeah,
and
well,
that's
you
what
guys
we're
are
doing.
two young guys, and I could pose the question to you, like, so you said you were raised here in the going to a Church of God. Jacob was raised Catholic. I'm Catholic. But what interests me, you guys, your demographic, more and more. I heard a statistic here recently. Said 41% of that generation are calling themselves nuns. They call them nuns, None, not N-U-N. Nuns, as in they do not self-identify with any religion.
Yeah, I'm kind of like I've kind of moved in that direction more. I'm more interested in just like all of them as a whole, because I think it's not just. I would just rather I like focusing on the spirituality of it. Like at all, I feel like all of them have their own stories to tell, and it's like how you interpret it is what you get out of it. And like religious wise, I've always leaned towards like Quakers, as much as that sounds.
Interesting.
The Quakers.
Yeah, because the Quakers they believe that like
God
we
is within
are
everybody.
yeah God we are God, like we are the byproduct, like God. They say that like, God is within everyone. Everyone's a piece of God, and like that's why they're pacifists too, is because they are God, and like you would be killing God attacking someone else. Which I mean that's I'm really big about like the innerness. It's just all spiritual. Yeah.
That's almost like the libertarian, just individual, no one really overpowering.
I think they're good. I think religion's great too. That's the thing. All of them too. They like, well, that take it with a grain of salt. Not all of them are at the greatest for the times, I guess you could say. Like I don't agree with like Islam. A lot of Islam is not made for this time. A lot of it's very ancient ideals that are not really haven't changed at all.
Oh,
very
yeah.
very anti. As much as it's weird, anti-woman. That's I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm about just if you want to practice it, practice it. Not you don't need a religious government to force it upon you.
Yeah, and that's I think what you described there, Frank. I think is a lot of what happens. There is a almost like a piecemeal individual sort of that nun group is sort of just kind of saying,
See,
I
I don't
kind of
think
like a
they're-
little bit
yeah.
of this, and I kind of like a little bit of this, and because it in making it individual and.
See, I don't think it's that's right. It's almost like they think they're none, but it's like deep inside they believe in something at least.
And the term you used, I think, is often also trotted out there as that spirituality. And it's interesting that you hear you say spirituality, and then also hear you say, I like religion. Because a lot of times people will be like, I don't like religion, but I'm not religious. I'm spiritual.
Yeah, that's just weird to me because it's like then how does that work? Because it's like that's what a lot of religion, if you look back to it, are based off of like magics and stuff like that. A lot of them had a lot of magic based things in it, like Gnosticism, which is a lot of Christianity's based off, had demons and whatever in it, just as like Christianity still does. Like if you think of it. I don't know. I'm just kind of going on a tangent this bit. I don't know. I feel like I'll figure it out sometime in my life. Like I'd rather expose myself to everything than make the decision myself. But at this time, that's That's weird to me though that people don't think spirituality and religion go hand. To me, it's always they kind of go hand in hand.
Well, I think there's a connotation on the religion side.
Yeah.
With sort of organized religion or authority.
Yeah.
Sort of an association with that. So it would be antithetical to what you just said about I like to kind of pick and choose. I kind of like a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah.
You know. And anyway, I've settled it for on my end. You know, there's a great line out there. I think it was G.K. Chesterton who said something like, "An open mouth is only good for one thing, and that's to bite down."
Yeah, that's true.
So like, you know, if you think about an open mind, people are like, I like the open mind.
That's what I mean. I feel like I'll reach that decision sooner or later. Like I'm kind of floating.
I never heard that saying. That's a good...
It's not a open-mindedness is not a perpetual. It's not a perpetual. Just like whatever. Eventually, if you want what's true, if you want the truth, it can't be everything at once, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So like if you put all your religions out and stack them up and be like, all right, I truly want to know what the real God is. I want to worship the true God. You got your options. You can do some empirical study, and you could put the claims of each religion against each other, and you could make a determination. As opposed to being like, oh, they're kind of all good. Yeah, I kind of like them. You know what? You know this. So I'm not mocking that, but it's kind of like
I definitely
you can
see what you're
float.
saying.
You can float along and not really settle or come down on anything. And that doesn't necessarily just because for myself, like I come to an understanding. That's my conviction, and then eventually I might meet something in reality, my own life that sort of changes that a tad. Just because I have a conviction doesn't mean that I might not eventually have to.
Well, and that's the thing I was saying about like how the people that are saying none, like they on the inside, because I find myself, it's like I'm not like, it's not like I pray all the time, but I'll find myself as not religious as I am, I'll find myself praying or something like that, even though it's not like a habit to me, but it's like. Just that it's peace. It almost makes you a peace of mind. Like I don't know. That's I've just noticed that because I'll just see I'll catch myself. I'm like hoping. It's like hope, faith. That faith. It's I don't know. I'm just kind of learning it as I go, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I've really I've almost rebelled so much from like we've always went to church every Sunday. And we went to CCD classes and all that stuff, and I've rebelled so much that at one point I was questioning if I even believed in God and everything, and I was really struggling there. But I really found I do believe in God, and I'm still reaching out on my beliefs and stuff and learning my beliefs and but that adoration I really enjoy adoration. For some reason, just sitting in there, just the way you feel when you're sitting in there is just, it's just, you're
church. You're talking about.
So I think you can explain adoration better. What is adoration?
So in the Catholic Church, we believe that when a priest consecrates the bread at communion. So you would growing up, you guys probably had some sort of communion service or meal. Yeah, with bread and maybe grape juice or.
Yeah, we had. I don't even maybe once or twice.
Yeah,
but I remember going to I've gone to a couple Catholic masses.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a completely different structure. It was odd.
Yeah,
it was different.
Yep.
But that was with the bread and the wine, right? Yeah.
So there's biblical basis for that belief and long-standing tradition all the way back from the start. But that host, once it's consecrated, we believe that it becomes substantially Jesus Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity. That's a pretty bold claim.
Yes.
Right? Glad to defend it, but that's what Eucharistic adoration is that they place that consecrated host in something called a monstrance. and monstrous just means like essentially display, and it's a gold. Usually it has a particular kind of design, and in the center of it is a place for that. And literally, since we believe that that's our Lord, our God, our King, we just go and spend time praying before that divine, that presence. Like in the Old Testament, there was something called the bread of the presence. So like if you remember like from Indiana Jones, the old Ark of the Covenant, and in the books of Exodus, ironically, they talk about how that has to be built and a lot of gold used and all this stuff. And
I've read a little bit about that. You're making me think of stuff now.
Yeah, so that bread of the presence was there in the presence with the Israelites was in that tabernacle. Like they had the stone tablets and the rod of Aaron, and so similarly, like Christianity is just a continuation, a fulfillment of Judaism, and so that's the same thing. We have tabernacles in our Catholic churches where the consecrated host, that presence of God in the bread, is there, and we get a chance at Eucharistic adoration to adore that presence, and it is cool.
It's weird because it's like probably people think it's probably pretty corny or something, but like it's weird because I go in there and
it's tradition. I don't think any tradition.
No,
is corny.
I know, but like if you,
I think all traditions should be respected.
But
that's like regardless of.
But for my personal thing, like it's just. It's a different feeling when I walk in there. Like I just feel instant. It's just like wow. Like I'm free. Like I have no stress or anything. I don't feel any stress. I don't feel any worry or anxiety or anything. I just sit there. It's weird.
Yeah.
And I haven't made time to go to any more. But I mean, I would like to. But it's a weird feeling and just something that I've experienced in that faith faith growing, I guess. So
and I would understand, why some Christians who don't have that experience and don't believe in that would almost equate that to something like idolatry, right? Like you're kneeling before a piece of bread. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I see.
So I understand where that may be a little bit.
That's why I said it's a little corny.
But like I said, it's a bold claim that the church has always made. You mentioned tradition. I mean, it is a tradition.
And that's like I always thought it was kind of weird how the Pope was talking about like same-sex marriage and stuff. And I always thought that's kind of odd just because it's like that tradition has been brought, like passed down continuously through the ages. Like you can't just stop their tradition. It's weird. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, don't get me started on Pope Francis, but
yeah, but I've always is he well liked among I've heard it's from what I've read from the media. They like him, but
what does that tell you?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Enough said.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, it's weird times. It's weird times, but that's he can't as a pope. Even.
He's not like he can actually change the religion. It's the whole religion.
Yeah, it's not as if the teaching of the church or those traditions can be reversed. It always has to be in continuity with the prior leadership, because it's not just man. It's not a man-made institution. It's divinely institution. Yeah. Is divinely ordained and founded, and that guarantee that the gates of hell will not prevail against it is the promise Christ gave to the first pope, Peter. And so the cool part about it is I actually just saw a little. It was in the back of I just bought my boy a Bible, and it was in the back of that, and it was the whole list of all the popes dating back to Peter. So literally, talk about tradition, literally the Catholic Church can trace its authority
all the way
back by name. This guy was the first pope, then second, third, all the way down. Like in each one of those, they would have been a priest and a bishop prior to becoming pope, and they literally can trace their ordination back to the first ordination. Like literally those hands stretch across time, 2,000 years. which is just a really cool thing. And that's why it's like, yeah, some of this tradition stuff that people are trying to set aside is like, that doesn't really work.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what,
You ain't breaking that chain.
yeah, and that's why I always like not even being Catholic, I've kind of thought like about the Pope, like, come on, like you can't, like I'm not even Catholic, and it's like you can't really stop tradition just because it's not up. The times have changed, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it's a tradition for a reason.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Thousands of years. And
Oh yeah.
you can't just change. Yeah. It I mean, I've heard things like that, and that's going on in the church. That's what kind of like almost made me rethink everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of bad leadership, undoubtedly. But the cool thing, we had talked about this with the Exodus thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when we talk about religion, it's most people want to eschew authority and the structure.
Mm-hmm.
But that beautiful thing about Exodus is I feel more free, more myself even when I give in, when I sort of am obedient to those strictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I think religion is the same way. It gets a bad rap
because
some people do it poorly, right? No,
yeah,
I'm not going to
Oh yeah.
deny that, but at its best, it's like the glue that holds us as a society together. And like you're talking about with the tradition, you can't just like knock the stuff down. Half the time you're knocking it down, you don't even know why it's there to start with.
Exactly. It's like far left people taking down historical statues or something. It's like you
Somebody
can't-
put it there for a good reason,
Exactly.
and they were probably a lot smarter than you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyhow,
But
had to get that in. Appreciate it. You
No,
let me do
yeah.
that,
Yeah,
guys.
absolutely. Again,
go
this
for
is
it.
this is raw. And this is what
yeah, we want to
this
get
is
everybody's
everything.
opinions
Yeah.
out.
And I got to give a shout out to TC if he makes it to this podcast
Yes.
long enough. I appreciate that he gave me a wildly good compliment on that program, and I will say that TC is probably, if I remember all the way back, I don't know that he's ever not been smiling and not been a positive experience to talk to the guy. So I respect that about him, and I hope maybe we have a chance to get together on a
Heck
podcast
yeah.
in the future. That'd be a lot of fun.
I think he wants to come back on, so I think we'll get you guys back
Yeah,
on
that'd
Be cool.
together. Yeah.
Have some coffee and
Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
there you
He'll
go.
have to
That's
brew
it.
who brew some here.
Yeah, I might just do that just for the coffee. And bring him in.
thanks for having me
So,
on. guys.
yeah.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my brother Chad Stolley.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah.